It's the Finding Joy podcast. This is episode 4. We are shining a light on the joy that exists in the lives of people all around us as we are on a mission to find joy wherever it might be. And that could be in the studios of the Joy FM or on a road trip, because we're taking road trips all the time looking for joy.
That's right. And in this particular episode, we're going to head to the city of Griffin, which is southeast of Atlanta, maybe about 40 miles out of downtown Atlanta, heading to a place called Safe House Coffee Roasters. It's got a very interesting background, how Safe House Coffee came about. And we're going to talk with Mary Passmore, who is one of the managers at Safe House Coffee.
Jason Horde is the guy that we invited there. Jason is of Jason Horde Productions. You've probably heard his name if you listen to the Joy FM. He is the guy he's kind of the prize.
Yes.
When a local artist gets the most votes with the local artist spotlight, they get to work with Jason Horde Productions to produce a single, and the guy just knows what he's doing with music production, but he is an amazing musician himself. Yes. He's also part of Mac Powell and the Family Reunion. Mac Powell, of course, of Third Day fame, is now doing a country thing with Mac Powell and the Family Reunion. But
and if you're an old listener of the Joy FM, you might even remember the band According to John that Jason was a part of. According to John was fronted by John Waller, who's had some pretty good success and has been a worship leader at various churches, had a couple of big songs and soundtracks of some of the
Kendrick Brothers films, yes.
Yeah.
Fireproof, he had a big song on that one.
And he does coffee, too. He's got some kind of a coffee thing going on.
Yeah. I can sense a future episode of the Finding Joy podcast. Yes. We may need to reach out to John Waller.
Many future episodes.
All right, well, why don't we get in the car and head to Griffin, guys?
Let's do it.
Well, we are now in the city limit of Griffin. Very few people know Griffin was settled in 1835 by Felonius Griffin and his wife Velma and their 12 kids. They had a butterbean farm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And that concludes
actually one of the
with
main sources of butter beans until the Civil War when the Union came in.
Are you serious?
They wanted them to plant green beans instead of butter beans, and he revolted.
You're making all this up.
I am, yeah.
Hey, Rocky, why don't you pull a rabbit out of my hat?
Hey, Mr. Peabody.
Yeah.
Let's go on the Wayback Machine.
Yep.
Griffin used to be a big rival in football with LaGrange.
Oh, yeah.
Turn left onto Flint Street.
Every time they would score,
in 1.4 miles, turn right
you would
onto
hear
South
this
Hill
like
Street.
growling over the speakers.
Oh, really?
Like a bear growling. I feel like they had a record player in the booth and they were just like running across a record.
Really? Was that bad?
Because it sounded like that. Like it was like that sound, but it kind of sounded like a bear too. I don't know if that's what they were doing, but kind of sounded like it. I hated hearing that sound because that meant
they
scored against my team.
Turn right onto South Hill Street. Then the destination is on your right.
I don't
see any meters. That's good. We don't need quarters. Although I do have quarters.
Safe House Coffee Roasters.
This time.
You came.
I just happen to have quarters in my pocket.
The destination is on your right. Safe House Coffee Roasters.
And it is.
No, maybe on the other side of this truck.
What's the cable?
Benji.
Hey!
Dude, out
There he is, man.
What's up?
How are you, man?
Good
Good to see you.
So just audio,
Yeah, we're capturing everything.
Awesome.
So, yeah. It's Jason, y'all.
Hi.
Rob Langer. Nice to meet you, Jason.
Rob. Nice to meet you, sir. How are
Hey,
you?
Jason, I'm Jerry. Good
We've
to see
met
you.
before, Jerry. Good
Yes,
to see you.
yes,
Back
I'm
with
sure.
John Waller.
Yeah,
and Third Day and everybody. So
Yep.
good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Y'all want me to go? We going to Safe House?
Yeah.
I grab some stuff.
Yeah, we got a. You need a hand or
It's
anything?
two things. It's easy. I got two, so I'll show
Okay, we'll see you in there.
Okay.
You think they're setting up for like a movie set or something?
Yeah, it's something. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely that stalwarts in town. So
Have
they
they-
do The Walking Dead and Rectify and all
So
that.
they've been doing a lot of it in
Oh
Griffin?
yeah. And that alley's been that way for like 2 weeks.
Really?
They say they're building it. They're doing it. Hopefully
Wow.
it'll be something that'll look cool and can stay. Usually they tear it down and take
Right.
it with them, but that's like metal structure.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, wow. Oh, is this it?
This is it. Yeah. I don't even, bro. I guess we're going
Oh,
to the
yeah.
stage.
Okay.
Magic.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, man.
How are you?
We can actually pull it back over.
How are you, bud? You talking just like upstairs, probably?
Yeah, Mary said she knows you.
Hey. Oh, I know that, Mary. Get it.
You didn't know what's Mary?
Yeah.
This is
Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the Mary. How are
Good to
you?
see you. I love you. So good to see you.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Working with you out of the way.
Is this who I talked to?
Hi, Mary. It's Benji.
Benji, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
This is Rob.
Nice to meet you, Mary.
Nice to meet you.
Jerry.
Like I said, we want to do. Benji said we want to do a podcast with Jason Horde, and I was like, why? Who is Jason Horde?
We podcast once a week, don't we?
He has a face for radio.
Hey, this
She
ain't.
she says that in front of 3 radio guys.
Me.
And here's the thing. This ain't even radio. This is a podcast. So.
No face for podcast.
Step down.
Thank you for letting us use Safe House today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Obviously.
thank you.
Anything we can do for Jason.
Oh, this
Appreciate
is a staple
it.
in town, and
Yeah.
man, we love it here. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Best
Longtime
coffee in town.
friend.
Yeah, I say in 30 plus years, and don't tell the stories that we know each other from the 90s. Don't remember those.
We're not gonna. We were babies.
I know, we didn't know.
We're not that old enough.
Actually, guys, those were the stories we were coming here for.
Right, exactly. We want to get the real dirt, you know.
Okay, well, let's send Jason away, and I'll.
That's awesome.
How long has Safe House been in this location?
Okay, we've been in business for 15 years total. We started, well, actually longer than that, because it started out as a coffee ordering and roasting business. And then we had a small spot near Chick-fil-A in Griffin for a few years. And then we've been down here in this location for about 12 years now, so.
But I understand now there's more behind Safe House Coffee than just being a business.
It is. Our owners / they like to be called guardians of Safe House, because this was really a calling for them. Hunt and Amanda Slade. They started Safe House as a safe place for anybody to be, so that you could come here to get counseling or recovery if you were an addict, to get somewhere where you could get help. And so they started it there, but having a nonprofit is hard. Asking people for money is hard. So we started the coffee shop as a way to fund those things and those outreaches.
It is. And I understand you help others that have that same mindset, because I know my wife was actually looking into doing something in Coweta County, and she had reached out to somebody here. I don't know if it was you but to talk
Yes.
about that. So you help others
We do. We
develop
help-
the same kind of plan.
We help we have wholesale clients who we actually work with, and those can be from church coffee shops to independent businesses to other nonprofits. That we help them. We actually roast in-house, and so we have them order from us. We ship the coffee to them, or they pick it up. And it's a way for other people to do kind of the same model we have, to do community outreach, to also give people a place to come to study, to do Bible study, to come and learn about Jesus, because church is anywhere where you gather people and you share that love.
Right.
And so that happens a lot here in a totally different setting than a traditional church.
Yeah. And I understand one of the big hearts behind Safe House is people with addiction and working with them. Tell us a little bit of the story.
That's where it started. For our guardians, Amanda and Hunt, working with people who were in the midst of addiction was just a labor of love. And so that's where it's all started from, doing counseling, getting people to other states to get help, because many times you can't break that cycle if you're in the same place, around the same people, doing the same thing. So you get other places and you are able to get a job. You're able to do those things that will put you on a path to recovery.
How did you get involved with Safe House?
I've known Hunt and Amanda for years. Like all of us, we all grew up knowing each other, running in the same circles. And I just became friends with them. I love this place. It's a piece of my heart. And I had the opportunity to come and work with them. And it's been amazing. I'll be here 5 years in January.
That's great. That's great.
I love it.
Well, thanks again for letting us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anytime. And I'll come back later and tell you those stories about John.
Okay, we'll get that.
Thank you. I sing for it.
So Mary's like really good friends with your wife, right?
Oh yeah,
Jason?
they grew up. They were in school together. Yeah, I was I became homeschooled in 10th grade to do music. I knew Mary just through hanging out and through just being in town. Like Griffin's a small town, so. But yeah, her and my wife were best friends and did all the school stuff together. I traveled to California at age 15 to play in a bluegrass band and start playing music. My parents were like, "We'll school you from the road," which is more common today, but uncommon back in '94 or '3 or whatever that would have been.
So bluegrass was where you started.
That's
right. And this is something that you've gotten back to in recent months, right?
Right. I would say, at age 7, Dad brought this mandolin home. This is the one. So around this time of the year, it was a Christmas gift. And he just said, "Hey, I know that you love to play and you're learning, and I want to give you a great instrument." It was a great instrument. It was a lot of money in like 1984 was. It was, but he was like, "I'm going to do it right. I want you to a good, instrument. If it's going to be your craft, then you need to have the right tool to do it." So I've had it with me. It's miles and miles. The case has holes in the bottom of it, but it's still with me. And yes, it came back around to me. We've talked about this, but toured with Third Day and John Waller from According to John for years, and then just found my way back to my roots, I guess, just so to speak. So I'm here to stay. I love it. I've been loving it. And there was a few years ago, I was sitting in church, about 4 years ago, and God just said, "Hey, you need to do a hymns record." And so I kind of started thinking, well, I'll kind of do that, and then it turned into being bluegrass. So
Okay.
It's good, yeah. Bring on the coffee, my love.
Hey, Americano right here. Thank you so much. Nope.
If you guys haven't had this coffee, it is definitely high powered.
It's
And it's
delicious
great.
too.
It's delicious,
Ah,
yes.
good. And they roast it right here,
It's
which
here.
is
I know.
fascinating.
I saw it downstairs.
You saw the roaster?
Yeah, we should right in the back.
See the rig, yeah.
Nice.
To go down and see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, bluegrass has been my family, and it's just in the roots. And I love how you kind of come back to the things that you were taught or were born. You kind of go off and do your own thing for a little while, and it's biblical. It seems like that you kind of turn back into, you come back to the ways you were raised and what you're into. So it's been great, and getting to play with Barry Bells and Ron Block and Mike, from Craig Morgan and Mikey, and just spending they all have bluegrass roots, and they all play phenomenal. So they just make me sound so much better than I really am. So that's always good. We all need each other. They are the best.
This guy, he's so humble. He is but he is just incredibly talented, and that's refreshing to me, Jason. Honestly, man, because as well as the three of us know that even in contemporary Christian circles, there are some people that there's a little arrogance here and there.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but
Well, there's ego, and part of that, I don't know that it would be understandable, but when you have so many people around you telling you you're great, you're wonderful,
Right.
sometimes people start to believe that, especially if they weren't grounded well when they started off.
Right, that's very true. Yes, if somebody's bringing you bottled water. I would catch myself on tour being like, there is 42 bottled waters in my dressing room. You drink 3 sips of it and you throw it away. It's like, well, I didn't pay for that. Who cares, But when you get home, you're like, man, I'm saving that bottle of water. I paid for that thing.
I didn't finish that yet.
That's my 90 cents right there. So it could be easy. Yes, you just have to, man, I think I have a mentor. This year I sought out. I used to have one back when I was in According to John with John Waller, and I would have a guy that would meet for breakfast once a week, and he would definitely shoot me straight, and he could tell me anything. I prayed through it this year, and I was like, because of some changes coming in my life and new direction, so I need someone wiser than me and older than me to speak into my life. And so he's very good at it. He gets me right where I need to be, and we're good for each other, so it's been good.
I find it fascinating that you were part of Mac Powell and the family reunion, right, when you guys got that thing together, and you go way back with Mac too. You guys are buddies. But then recently, right when it's getting going, and you guys are getting gigs all over the place, you said, I gotta go back home. Tell us the story behind that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we hung out Sunday night. It's been great, and we are still writing and producing music together. So I feel like we have this great relationship. We would both tell you that we're like brothers, and we bonded really well quickly, almost 14 years ago now. But recently, my family decided to go to, they've been homeschooled forever. This summer, they were like, okay, we're going to go into a school situation. And I just really felt like I think I won't be able to give my best to both worlds. And my family has to be, the priority in life. And that's what you're going to take with you. So I was like, man, I can play music and figure that out. But I couldn't give him my best either. So I was like, I don't want to shortchange you. And if there's another guy, I would be holding back his blessing in this spot. Like if I just hold on to it. There's a baseball player from here in Griffin named Jeff Treadway, and he played for the Braves. Super talented. He said the same thing. When he was with the Braves, he was trying to retire for 3 years straight, and he would tell Bobby Cox, he was like, I'm trying to retire. I got another thing to do. And Bobby was like, man, just give me one more year, man. You're like our shepherd now. You're like kind of our leader. You know, there were younger guys that probably had more energy and more talent and whatever, but he was like, man, you're the glue that's holding this thing together through the 90s. And he's like, man, I'm holding back the next guy's thing. And he told me that one day when I saw him at lunch here one day, because I was kind of telling him about 6 months ago what I was thinking about doing. And he was like, you're holding that next guy back too. Not only are you not going to be able to flourish in your next dream, but you're also holding back somebody else's. So it was a hard conversation, but Mac made it as easy as possible. He was very understanding. And a couple of days over text, and it's some, he's like, you're fired, stuff like that. And, and funny emojis, and the poop emoji and stuff like that.
That's great. That's good to know that Mac Powell uses the poop emoji.
Yeah. And then a couple of guys from New Song the other night were like, man, we just got this tour cooking, and then you just take off. They're like, too many bad notes? I was like, that's what it was. So it's a joke around some of the guys.
Yeah, and the new album that you guys put together, it's getting a lot of good reviews with in the country music circles.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's been on the charts. It's number 15 on the charts right now.
That is amazing.
So wow. It's great. So hopefully we're just making more music together.
And he put together some kind of song for Waffle House. I know you guys have this thing with Waffle House. Now, did you record on that too?
I did. We produced, and
What's it called?
Just
the Waffle House
I don't know what
song?
it's called. Probably, but the chorus is WAFFLEHOUSC. It spells it. It's great. It's great. So it's in the jukebox in the Waffle House. He actually won some Waffle House award. They have music awards, So they have that.
And Waffle House Music Award.
Yeah, that's it. And then they have our country records are in there now. So it's pretty wild to go down by the Waffle House by my house and be like, hey, I got music in the Waffle House.
So you can go up to the jukebox and put in Mac Powell on the
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's so wild. Wow. But it's been good, man. It's been a good thing to, just tour with him and play with him, write with him. And we'll continue. I wouldn't say the door is closed. It's just for right now. It's a season that my family's in and that I'm kind of in.
We're right around the corner from what used to be Black Cat Studios.
That's right.
Hey Studios now. Black Cat was yours for a long time. And so now Jason Horde Productions is... I guess, is it mostly in the upstairs of your house
It's
now,
mostly in the house, yes. There's, most studios have moved. As we're doing today, we're mobile recording, so it's pretty simple to do. And so started doing most of that at home. And then I still go up there to track, a big band or whatever. What it freed me up to do was to be able to say I can go to different towns and record. So I just recorded for a church in Florida that is a 1122 church, and they're most of their people are there. So they came up here to track their band, but then I went back there for all their vocals. To schedule it, it was much easier for me to throw a laptop and one mic in the car and go to a studio there. So it's just caused me to go to music as well as it just not having to come to me. Because if you have a pond, you feel like you should fish your own pond. You're like, I shouldn't go to the lake because I got my own. Or if you have a pool, you're like, I should swim my own pool instead of going to so-and-so's because I got one. So I always felt like I loved it there, and I still do. I love working with my buddy Ryan there and doing stuff at Hey, but I felt toward the end, I felt a little tied to it, being like, well, I kind of need you to come here so I can do my thing.
Justify having.
Justify having it. There you go, Jerry. So that's it. Now it's like, hey, I can come to you, and scheduling is easier, and it's been great. So another God story. Mac and I were on tour with Craig Morgan. I was laying in my bunk, and I just woke up one morning, and I was like, I think that season is done in that space. Wildest thing. Open my eyes. I'm like, okay, let's go. I don't know what's next, Lord, but we're going to do it. So
Wow.
It happened.
Right.
And it's been fun.
But you've worked with many, artists over the years. I mean, so look at the lineup, Casting Crowns, and I mean, it's not just Third Day and Mac Powell, but you've got, you even saw Josh Groban.
Yep.
Did some recording with him.
Play some guitars on his records. My good friend Bernie Herms, who is Natalie Grant's husband, produces all.
Bernie.
He's fabulous. Yes, he's one of the greatest musicians on the face of the earth and composers. And so he was like, "Hey man, I just need some acoustic guitar like on a Josh Groban record." I was like, "Come up to Nashville," and so good. So we did some of that there, and that's another amazing talent.
We were wondering on the way over here about, so you've worked with a lot of different artists over the years. If there's maybe an artist that you haven't worked with that's maybe like bucket list or group of artists, I don't know.
Oh, that's good. I would say it'd be Bluegrass World now. I would say if it's Bluegrass World, it would be like, an Alison Krauss or something. And I'm closely tied in with several of her guys, so I'm like, if it ever works out.
And okay, so we're going to come back to this question in a second, because you got a little... I know something about you and Alison Krauss. You guys used to compete against each other in the day, didn't you?
That's right. So there would be fiddle and mandolin competitions. So at different, and Chris Thiele's another great mandolin player, would always be in these, I guess competitions, playoffs together, and it was amazing. I think
Chris Thiele is what I was remembering more than Allison.
She was always around and always playing, and we would open for her and her band, and she was 16, I was 12, and then he was 8. So and he was shredding too. It's like bluegrass. I mean, we're all a little weird, but bluegrassers, we're really weird because we didn't I was in school and people were like, "Who is that kid?" And I've actually got to speak about that at a school in the morning, about being, I guess, confident in who you are, because I was kind of he's playing mandolin, and he's like, we're over here playing with dump trucks and throwing footballs and kickball and, wrestling, and I'm over here I just want to get back to my mandolin. Can I do that? I want to get out of the school joint so I can, pick some bluegrass. But, working with her would be incredible. That would be definitely a thing I'd love to do. Or somebody that's in the bluegrass world that's like that. There's one of the greats is Dale McCoury. And he's so good. And he's like the Willie Nelson of bluegrass kind of, He's just going to be there forever, and that would be another one that would be a blast to work with. Christian music I love, and we're great friends. Zach Williams, and he doesn't need anybody to work with me. It just his music that he puts out is just so good, so he's an authentic person. As you're speaking about what we're talking about earlier, he's just what you see is what you get.
Yeah, and it's good to get a southern sound in contemporary Christian music
it
too.
Is,
and brings Dolly into it. I mean, that's incredible.
I know.
She's recording with everybody these days.
I know.
She ought to be recording with Jason Hort next.
Let's go, man. That'd
be a good one too, huh?
It's over. Yes, call the Griffin Hospital when that happens. They're gonna need some room out there, man. I would go down. She's incredible.
Yeah,
and just again, icon.
Oh, absolutely.
And lives a life of hey. So when I was in '98, me and my wife moved to Nashville, and I was working in Pier 1 Imports, opening boxes and putting stuff on the shelves. And she walked in one day, and of course I was like, I'm never like that. I'm going to run up to someone. So I'm more like maybe they'll come to me. It was the same when Mac and I met. We were at a church together, and all my friends were like, vroom, and smothered him. And I'm like, that's a way to get in with him, but that's not the way to really. You just want it to happen, naturally. And so, but she walked in, and people swarmed her, and people started buying greeting cards, blank cards, stationary cards, I guess you would say, and getting her to sign it, to open it. And she stayed for an hour and a half.
Golly.
And just full made up, looked like she had somewhere to be, but maybe she did, but she stayed for an hour and a half with people, and people would come, because it was a busy time of the year, and it was around this time of the year, it was around the Christmas season. So after it was all done, I was like, I play mandolin, and I would love to one day, and then, just play with you. So if that ever happens again, she knows about it. I can go back and say, in '98, we talked about that. But knowing her, she would remember. Ricky Skaggs is the same way. We played the opera recently with Ricky Skaggs. He remembers he was like, I remember meeting you a couple of years ago at so and so, and
Wow.
Do you
Spent time with my
do you guys see
daughter.
how he just casually said that? He played the Grand Ole Opry with Ricky Skaggs.
Well, I was wondering if that name was going to come up or
That's
not
a-
on your list, but you've already played with him. Like we did it.
Well-
I did a show with Ricky when I was with Gospel Music Channel. We did, and got to meet him, and quite a guy.
You
Quite a
experienced
guy.
it.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
just
Oh, yeah.
as down to earth and great and
Was Pier 1 Imports your last
Real job.
Real job.
It was my last real job. I worked here on the highway in Griffin. They hired me to cut the ditch and keep the car lot looking good. So the first day, as you can tell, I'm not short of ever having words to say. So
Which is good because people are wanting to hear you talk in the podcast. So
this is good. Yes, as a kid, I was so shy. I was like, man, I couldn't. But so I was up there mowing the ditch on the highway, and these people come up and they're looking at this car. My first day on the job, and the salesmen are inside. Well, they're on the phone and they're doing whatever. I just cut the lawnmower off. I was like, "Can I interested in something?" I got cut off jean shorts. I'm looking like the lawn man. And they're like, "You work here?" I was like, "Yep." And man, I sold a car the first day.
Oh, God.
And they were like, "Look, we're gonna take you off the lawnmower and put you inside the sales, but you got to clean up." I was like, I mean, you put me on the lawnmower, so I just dressed for the occasion. But so sold cars for about a year.
Okay.
And I was like, man, this is all right, but I got to play music. So
Yeah.
started playing with John Waller. He was like from Fayetteville area, and made music with him for probably 6 or 7 years. And according to John, and that kind of got it going. Last real job was Pier 1, though, yes. Opening potpourri and setting it out on the shelves.
Try this scent.
That's it.
So you left according to John and then moved to Nashville.
Right, and there was a gap there. It was the same. I was like, okay, according to John, was kind of coming to the end of his season with him. So, and I was like, I'm going to go where the music is and where I think I should be doing it. And I never once played hardly a note of music up there. Ended up meeting Dolly and John Barry, who's a big country singer, and just several things that you're like, man, how? It doesn't really make sense, but yeah, it was great because it also showed me that I didn't want to do that again. I would, but I was like, I don't want to open boxes again. I want to play music. So it almost created more of a drive to, I was like, oh, I had it pretty good. I probably had better stick with music. So it's been music ever since '99.
So you came back to
Griffin.
And is that when you opened the studio?
That's when the studio started happening. So I worked with Scotty Wilbanks, who was does half the Christian music stuff. He's great, talented. So he would have me play guitar and started working in with him. And then I produced one project for a good friend of mine here in town. And I said, Scotty, I need some keyboards on it because I don't play keys. And so he played on it. He was like, man, you produced this? I was like, yeah. He said, you could do this. And by him saying that, I was like, okay. And then I worked some with Nathan Knuckles, and that's Christy's husband, and he said the same thing. He was like, all you really got to do is get great musicians around you and then just capture the vocal and have a really good song. And he's like, just build a team around you. It's like, you don't have to know how to build every block of the house. If you're a contractor, just put the people, get the teams around you. So I've just been so blessed over the years to know people, meet people. My buddy Brian Scoggin is here in town. He's the Casting Crowns drummer.
Yeah.
And he's been over to y'all's, I'm sure, your station before. And we were talking on the way here today. And that is a guy that, man, he has put so many wonderful people in my life just through his connections and saying, like, you should work with this person next. And it's been incredible. Little advertisement and mostly just thankful to you guys. You guys are always doing the local artist spotlight and mentioning the studio, and that's just I'm grateful for it. That helps feed my family, so
that's awesome.
I'm grateful for it. Thank you.
Well, we're grateful for you being a part of it and making it a little something extra for the people who enter.
Yeah, and wanting to inspire upcoming artists as well. That's the cool thing that you want to pour into their lives.
Jordan Ray is one that you're like his like big brother or something, man. And he's always talking about you, and you guys have put together some incredible music.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. The country music thing is still going too. Like Jody Messina. That is a big country act from the 2000s, and she just moved here.
Really?
Yes.
How about that?
I know. Everybody's like, what?
Let's move to Griffin.
Usually people leaving to go to Nashville think she's coming here. I know. Yeah.
I know. She is at a place where she's a believer. She became a believer in the last.
She recorded Reckless Love not too long ago.
That's
Sounds
right.
Really
I remember
good.
that version coming out.
That's right. So that's her just going, what do I need to do? She's just trying to find it. She's like, I'm on a new path. This is a new thing.
Yeah.
So she comes here, and people are like, hey, you should look up this Jason Horde, redneck. So we also have lunch. So we've met. We're gonna probably do some rootsy she's like, I have so many ideas. I'm like, let's just unpack them, because she's an amazing talent and singer. And so
can't wait to hear what you guys come up with. That's going to be amazing.
It's I mean, that is another wild thing. That would be a bucket list. I mean, I grew up on her country music, going like, she's incredible. And so I wouldn't say grew up, but I mean, the 2000s, I was 20-something years old. So you're still growing up.
Yeah, 20. Absolutely.
No doubt.
We're all still growing up.
That's very true.
We're all still growing up.
That's very true.
You mentioned Brian Scoggins that you work with Casting Crowns. You guys are on projects all the time, but you go to church together too.
We do.
Over at Rock Springs, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you're on the worship team there.
That's right. So I kind of am the band MD, which is musical director. So I guess if any chord is off or any arrangement needs tweaking,
They blame you.
They blame me. That's right. It's my fault. That's very true. Funny enough, that's probably how it gets looked at. But yeah, you kind of produce the service or musically, and then it's been good. That's been another transition coming off the road. I was like, I want to be able to be there with my family, and Wednesday nights my kids go to the youth thing, which is called Fuse, and it's awesome. Man, we love it. And I think if I'm just there running sound or playing acoustic or just being plugged in, it helps my girls to go, okay, I definitely want to go tonight. We would usually travel out on Wednesday nights or early Thursday mornings, so we'd reserve that time for family time if I was on the road. So now we're kind of like, hey, we're going to church together. It's a good thing.
We have a lot more with Jason coming up. Jason is going to do a couple of songs for us, because when he came, he brought not only his guitar, which was, what was his guitar? A 1950 Martin?
Yes.
And his mandolin. We're going to impose upon him to do a couple of songs a little later on in the podcast.
We call this the Finding Joy podcast, and we look for ways that people find joy. And when we talk to Mary, the general manager of Safe House Coffee Roasters, and the story behind Safe House Coffee, how it all got started, basically to help those that are struggling to find joy in their lives. We like to call that spreading joy. We've got something here at the Joy FM that we have started called Spread Joy, where we want to encourage you to find a way to spread joy in your own community. We have asked nonprofit organizations to tell us what your needs are. And we don't mean tangible needs, donating items or money or things like that. How people can serve in your organization, whether it be feeding the homeless or going to homeless shelters or nursing homes. We have a page dedicated to that at our website, thejoyfm.com. We also want to hear from you. Maybe you run a nonprofit organization in your area and you have a need that people can fill. Well, let us know about that as well. We have a form on the page where you can tell us how people can spread joy in your community. Again, that's all under the Spread Joy section at thejoyfm.com.
Life, as the saying goes, is divided into seasons. So when you're in the shuttling kids season, it's super hard to imagine, let alone plan for a time when that will end. My friend and women's ministry blogger Suzanne Chambers has some tips and encouragement for those in that season.
Our children are always going to need us, but their needs will evolve into something different, and we need to be prepared for that.
Hear more of my conversation with Suzanne Chambers on the next Jewel Show podcast. You can do that by going to thejoyfm.com/Jules.
So, Griffin, you lived in Nashville, which, that's a happening place for music.
Yeah.
But you came home. You've lived here basically your whole life, right?
Yeah, only 2 years of the time we were up there, so
yeah.
year and a half.
What is it about Griffin? Tell me what, because I'm from LaGrange, and I could talk on and on and on about how much I love LaGrange, but
yeah.
I'm sure you could do the same about Griffin.
It's probably, I think, when I travel and would see so many faces that I didn't know, but I love to meet new people. It's awesome. It's that's the part of the road that I love the most, probably, is having the road family. But here, just like today with Mary, it's like walking in, I was like, well, there's a couple of Marys. I mean, I know several Marys really well here at Griffin, but I always forget that she is the, basically, chief guardian around here, as they call it. But she's so sweet, but that's what suckers me in. I mean, I can't go even to Fayetteville or Peachtree City and sit down and have someone come up and kiss me on the head and be like, anything you want and anything you need. It's like the red carpet's open. That could be most of these places in downtown Griffin down here. If you spend time with people and genuinely love people, that comes back to you. That's what keeps me coming home, is the heart that is here. And in the same, people have came from other areas and said it's kind of hard to start a business up in Griffin if you're not in with the locals and if you're not downtown just loving on them every day and you just pop open a paint store, and you know they're not going to go to you. They're going to go to Griffin Hardware, where it's always been, to get their paint. They will pay more for the service and to take care of Scratch Larry's back, you know, over at Griffin Hardware. So it's like it's a tight community, but also very receiving. And anyone that I've brought into the studio, or other artists or people, they never feel like, you know, they're getting celebritized. Is that a good redneck word?
Yeah. We try to make
it.
up a new word for every episode.
And Jason did it for this one. I love it.
So they never feel, you know, that way. And, you know, a lot of them come and hit the antique shops and grab what they need when they're in town, you know, and hit the coffee spots. And they're like, where's the best local barbecue, you know? So we go up to Southern Pit and do that. And so
okay, that's the best one then, huh?
That's the best one.
Yeah. Come and try that one.
It's a good one. It's up on 1941. It's a real good one. They're only open like 3 days a week. It's one of those, though. They're like noon to, you know, 9, and it's like
those are the best ones.
Thursday,
though.
Friday, Saturday. You can get it. Got every trucker's hat you've ever seen known to man on the wall in there.
Sweet.
Mike Huckabee signed a bass and left it there with him, a bass guitar there with
really?
him. So, yeah, it's
Awesome.
a spot. Yeah. Yeah.
Too cool. Too cool.
End of the day. Maybe it's been a rough day.
Yep.
You're by yourself at night, just you and a mandolin. What are you playing?
Ooh, the Wildwood Flower. Almost every time. It's usually that or Amazing Grace. That's a good question, Terry. So that I found myself that way the other night. I had worked like probably 10 hours in the studio, and I'm not complaining. There's a lot harder jobs than that. It's mentally fatiguing. Mm-hmm. And then we're grabbing kids from Studio D up here from dance, and we're trying to get everything shut down, and the day is like, oh man, it's already on us that we need to be in bed to start the next day at 5:30 a.m., you know, with kids and everything. And I was upstairs, and I grabbed the mandolin and played the Wildwood Flower.
Okay, you're poised to play right now, so I think
Hey.
You good?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Super simple, but one of the it was a Carter family song, I believe.
Okay.
So back that would be June Carter
June,
Cash.
yeah.
That's it. So Johnny's wife, and she sang and played that. Her mother played that, Mother Maybelle. That's it. It's all coming back. Yes, that's it. That Amazing Grace at times, but mostly Wildwood Flower.
I got to ask you a little bit about playing the mandolin, because I play guitar, and you know, my daughter is also starting to play ukulele. The fingering in playing the mandolin, as opposed, do you ever get confused if you're, you know, oh wait a minute, I'm not playing the guitar chord, I'm playing, this is how you play the C chord, and you know, are there any similarities between guitar fingering and mandolin fingering?
No similarities, because it's basically the top of the guitar, the top
Okay,
four
I was wondering,
flipped.
yeah, okay.
So it's flipped. And then the two are the same. So the two that are really close together. The thing that will trip me up is if I've been playing a bunch of guitar, is the spacing, because it's so tight. Mm-hmm. It's much, the fretting, you know, there's like 2 to 1.
I know.
Ratio. You know, so, but I think it's Scotty Wilbanks always says, he's like, man, it's on you like your arm. It's like when you were born. He was like, it's an extension of your arm. It's like your third arm. So ukulele is a great place for your daughter to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he was a Don Ho fan.
Oh, really? Is that what it was?
I've even had her play with my worship team when I'm leading worship at one of the churches I'm at, to get her, you know, add a different sound to the band.
Right. That is cool. Yeah, it's a warm sound. It
Yes,
makes you feel, it's like a banjo to me. Banjo, it takes you to a place. Banjo puts me on the front porch or in a field. It just feels good.
Yeah.
You know, it always feels good. Electric can take you many places. Electric guitars, but banjo, ukulele, mando, it takes you to one spot.
Right.
To me, it does.
You play banjo too?
I do.
Yeah?
I play banjo.
How many instruments do you play, Jason?
It's string stuff.
Yeah.
It's all anything stringed is pretty much. I don't play. I can pick the violin, but the bow is something I would really need to work on. That's a hard thing. And
So when you played, it's a fiddle, not a violin.
that's it. Yeah, that's right. But yes, that's a tricky one, man. I don't. Yeah, most strings: banjo, mandolin, guitar. You know, play drums enough to show somebody a part, to be like, hey, this is what I need you to do. Because that so much of it is in the hands with every instrument. There can be fabulous musicians that can play a piece of junk, a guitar, and you're like, oh, it still sounds awesome. Or there can be, it can go the other way too. I can give, that's a 1950 Martin, and I can give that to somebody who doesn't know what to do with it, and they're like, it doesn't, if they're just whatever, Joe Hack or whatever, it's not going to sound that good. So you got to know how to, touch it. But so I drums, bass. My mom's an upright bass player. She plays the big dog house.
Wow.
So have one of those, and so I kind of learned on that.
And you played together with your family again recently. You guys hadn't done that in a while.
We haven't, man, and it was great. We played at a little church out in kind of like the Concord area. They meet on one Sunday night a month. They go to their own respective churches, like through the normal church hours, and then on Sunday night, everybody brings a meal, and there's probably 15 churches represented there, and like 200 people. And we just played bluegrass hymns, and me and Mom and Dad, no mics, they had stuff, but I was like, you know what? The room was great. It projected, and they were attentive. And man, a guy smoked a brisket and brought that. It was really good. She was talking about church organizing in other places. I was like, that's really, Mary was earlier. It was great. We really enjoyed that. And my family, my dad at age 13, he said, okay, you have hit your ceiling with Mom and Dad. And, the banjo player, my uncle, played with us some, and he's like, we got to get you in another band. So they put it down and drove me around to bluegrass festivals and let me play with other musicians. And that's I feel like that now is like, okay, I see that in no way am I putting this down, because it's the way that I, provide for my family, and, it's what I love. I couldn't do it. But making sacrifices as a parent, that's just kind of been lately. That's it. And there's so much joy in that. Getting to take them to dance and run around and be at the Nutcracker this past weekend, with a lot of drama going on, with 2 teenage girls. But I will look back, and it's be well worth it, then.
Amen.
So there'll be always time to do this too. So
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so you got a whole slew of hymns that you can pull from that you've recorded, but I don't know if you want to pull from one of those, but we want to hear a hymn from you. And while you're rearranging, getting your guitar, hymns. What made you do some hymns records?
Sitting in church, and I have no idea, because I had done a project called Sunnyland that was much like Tom Petty's sound of music.
Love that too.
Thank you.
It's on Spotify.
It is. That is streaming all like crazy.
Yeah, I've listened to all your stuff, man.
Thank you, Benji. That means the world, man. Thank you. And so I was on that path of going like, hey man, I'm going to do like a Americana, rootsy, which is good. I mean, I love that. That's what I listen to. I love Tom Petty, Willie Nelson, any kind of, that kind of stuff. Chris Stapleton, all that stuff. Amazing. Love it. Sitting in church, and the Lord popped this thing in my head, because I wouldn't probably normally think this way, but it was like, go home in Facebook and ask Facebook, what's your favorite hymn? I didn't even have a project in mind. So did that. It's the most commented on thing that I'd ever posted, and probably still is. It was like almost 300 comments in 2 or 3 hours, just Sunday afternoon, everybody's sitting around. That's a big time. People they're resting, so they're on social media. So, they got it kicked out of gear, got nothing better to do. Falcons are probably losing, so I'll look at I went with the first 10 that I saw and was like, that's what I'm going to do. And it just started going. It caught fire. I mean, I played at a couple different churches around here in different places, and man, people just started really going like, so and coupled it with bluegrass, because I was like, I kind of want to give, I feel like the older generation. I'm playing at my church tomorrow night for the seniors, and there'll probably be 200 of them in there, and we're going to do the bluegrass hymn stuff and then do some of those as well. But they love modern music. I know they do, but most of them are missing, what they grew up on, and I don't want to forget about them, because we're here because of them, man.
And I got to tell you that I played a few of the tracks from Hymns 3 with my grandmother in the car with me the other day.
Oh, man.
And she's 91.
Okay.
And she has memory problems, but they're short-term memory. But she remembers all those. And I looked over, and I can see her mouthing the words to all those hymns. And, there's a heart connection to hymns.
There is. I see the same. And I haven't played for any young people too. I've played for young people, and I haven't seen them not connect with it either. So I'm like, it's not that it's not relevant anymore. It's just people are going, we need all these keyboards and all these loud, things. And I see both. I see that college kids and all these people in different walks of life need, modern music as well. We all do. We got to create modern music. You can get all this out if I'm in trouble, but
no, not at all.
But it just needs to have some depth to it. Right. And I think the hymns, I don't know if there was some kind of a pact that all the hymn writers signed back in the 1700s that we will be theologically sound.
Right.
But there is depth to those hymns. There's solid theology in a lot of those hymns. Right. Where a lot of times in the more contemporary worship stuff, it's either they're plagiarizing David, or it's just like basically it's a song that's designed to be able to have a large group of people learn it in a short amount of time. Right. And so it has to be very simplistic for that. Right. But I think that's my 2 cents on it. Basically.
He just self-edited. I love it. Oh, that's awesome. That's very true. Very true. And I feel like there's a few that are being written. That Goodness of God song right now, I want to redo that one. Yeah. And there's not much that needs to be redone. I just want to get some bluegrassier instruments on it. It's just the way it's produced, and it sounds awesome. How about How Marvelous? That's what I had on my,
I love that.
I had on my heart this morning, though. I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene, and I wonder how he could love me, a sinner condemned unclean. How marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful, and my Savior's love for me. He took my sin and my sorrow, he made them his very own. He bore my burden to Calvary. He suffered and died alone, singing how marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful is my Savior's love for me. With the ransom and glory, his face I at last shall see. It will be my joy through the ages to sing of his love for me. How marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful, and my Savior's love. We're singing how marvelous, how wonderful, and my song shall ever be. How marvelous, how wonderful is my Savior's love for me. There you go. Thank you.
My goodness, Jason, that was just incredible, man. man.
Thank you.
You know, you feel these times when worship is happening. You don't normally feel it in a coffee shop, but that was pretty incredible to bring it into Safe House Coffee here, man.
Thank you. I'll play for whoever wants to listen and hang with me and be a part of it.
That's great. Well, we certainly loved listening to it today, man.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking us some time to
You guys
hang out.
You too.
Yeah.
Anytime.
So great to hang out with Jason. I mean, the guy is he's so hospitable. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very down
Just
to
a
earth
really
and
cool
warm.
guy. I feel like the common thread between both Jason and Mary is the fact that they both told stories of a calling. And Jason, a couple of different stories of God calling him to do certain things in his life, to change certain paths in his life. And with the story of Safe House Coffee Roasters, you know, they answered the call to be there for the community and to be able to fund their ministry. They start a coffee shop, which is just incredible to me. You know, when those times come where we feel like God is speaking to our hearts, it is the right thing to do to answer the call, even if it means that we have to get a little uncomfortable in our lives. And speaking of being uncomfortable, Paul and Timothy and Silas wrote a letter way back in the day that's documented in 2 Thessalonians 1. They're writing to the church of the Thessalonians, and they're going through a tough time. They're going through trials trying to get the gospel out there, trying to get the word out about Jesus. And trials back then are not like the trials that we have in 2020, you know? Those trials meant death sometimes, but they knew they had a calling. And this is part of what is written in 2 Thessalonians, the first chapter, starting in verse 11. With this in mind, we constantly pray for you, that our God may make you worthy of his calling, and that by his power he may bring to fruition your every desire for goodness and your every deed prompted by faith. We pray this so that the name of our Lord Jesus may be glorified in you and you in him, according to the grace of our God and the Lord Jesus Christ. It's just powerful, powerful words. And so I don't know what your plan is for this year. If you have something that God is calling you to, prayer about that calling is so important. Whether you're in the midst of it now or whether you're asking for God to bring you the path that you need to follow. That was a prayer that I had a few years back. I was kind of in between jobs and making ends meet, ironically, working at a coffee shop, and in walks Rob Langer. This is the greatest story. I had been praying for at least 2 years. God, I don't know what it is that I need to do with my life. I am a creative person, and I want to minister. I want to use that in some way. I had worked in radio before. I thought I was done with radio because my experience was not that great toward the end of it. And I thought, I don't need to do that anymore. Well, Rob walks in. We strike up a conversation. I'd been hearing Rob for years on the Joy FM. And I told him that I used to work in radio. And he's, you know, his eyes kind of lit up.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yeah, you know what? We got a job opening.
Yeah, that's right.
A couple of weeks later, I'm working here. You know, a few months down the line, it's full time. And this is a calling for me.
Yeah.
If that was not a calling that God just said, hey, this is what I want you to do, I don't know what is. And so I'm so grateful that the eyes of my heart were open to see that. So I pray that for you, if you don't know what's next for you, that you could find the path that God is laying out for you. And it may not be as obvious as that one was.
Or it may not be as comfortable as you want it to be. You know, it's stepping out into the unknown sometimes. God is pushing you to do that. I remember when I had started as a worship pastor at a small church, and this was a different church because I was used to the big show type church, you know, with the smoke, you know, and all of that.
Pyrotechnics.
Exactly. You know, full band and the whole 9 yards. And here we are in a very comfortable setting. And it was an acoustic kind of feel. It was myself and the guitar. That was it. But this church had a deeper heart than I had ever understood before. It was not only taking the word in, but getting out and serving. And that was something that was uncomfortable for me, getting out into the community. That was God kind of pushing me to say, now you need to take that next step, to get out and to get your hands dirty. And one thing led to another. And then I went on my first mission trip. Never thought I would do something like that before, in another country. You know, so it's sometimes taking that leap. Okay, God, I'm not too sure. This is out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to go and I'm going to answer your call. I've been blessed by that experience. So following God's call, it may not be something you're comfortable with, but just trust in him.
You know, I'm glad you used that word push. I remember a time when there was some things going on at a place that I worked at that I was not comfortable with it because they weren't the way that I thought they should be. And so a group of us got together and prayed, Lord, either change this situation or the person who's causing this situation, or change us. And he pushed me out. I got fired and wound up without a job for about a half a day, and went across the street to another radio station and got a job. And that's actually where I met Sheila, who I did. But anyway, be ready. When you pray and ask God to move in your life, be ready for something that he's going to do that you maybe hadn't thought of. I was thinking, well, they'll just fire that guy and everything will go on the way it should be here. No, I was totally removed from the situation.
So keep your heart open.
Yeah.
If 2020 is a year that is one that is going to be full of change for you, pray that that God would show you the right path. And even if it's an uncomfortable one, he's going to be with us.
Right.
So on our next episode of the Finding Joy podcast, and I'm trying to do the math in my head, I'm thinking it's the 16th of January.
Good answer.
Correct.
There is the 16th.
Hey!
This is going to be a very special one that actually came to us because of a discussion between two of our daughters. And so the next episode is going to feature our daughters. What about the perks of being a daughter of a dad in radio? Or are there any perks?
Oh, there's plenty of perks.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
All the station T-shirts you want.
That meeting different artists
concerts?
and bands and concerts and just
That's
Really how I started my career.
Right, that's
was
right.
Because
Yeah.
of you in radio.
Daughters of dads on the radio.
Yeah.
Talking about some of their most fun and most embarrassing and most memorable moments on Thursday, the 16th.
You can also follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, even on YouTube as well. If you need all of those links, we make it easy for you. Just go to the Finding Joy podcast page at thejoyfm.com.
We've got those links in the show notes for you, too. And while you're checking out the show notes and linking up to jasonhord.com or linking up to Safe House Coffee Roasters, we've got those links for you, too. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. We'd love to be able to get more people to hear the Finding Joy podcast, and that certainly helps.
And of course, if you subscribe, that helps too. You can find us on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else. Fine podcasts are available.
And you can even listen on your smart speaker.
If you have any suggestions for future episodes of the Finding Joy podcast, email us your comments, questions, and suggestions at findingjoypodcast@thejoyfm.com.
Again, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on the 16th with the Finding Joy podcast.